The cranberry sauce made its third lap around the table, bypassing me completely while Dad regaled everyone with his latest promotion story. Again. I'd heard this one 4 times already, but Aunt Linda was nodding like he'd just revealed the secrets of the universe. Assistant VP of Regional Operations, Dad announced, chest puffed out like a peacock. 32 years with the same company. That's called loyalty. That's called dedication. He shot me a look. The kind of look that said everything without saying anything. The kind I'd been getting my whole life. Grandma Rose passed the turkey platter. Such a blessing to have everyone together. Kevin, dear, help yourself. You look thin. That was me. Kevin. The disappointment who looked thin because I'd been working 18-hour days for the past 3 months closing deals that would make Dad's salary look like pocket change. But nobody knew that. Nobody asked. Kevin's always been a picky eater, Mom chimed in, as if I were still 7. Remember when he wouldn't eat anything green? I was 31 years old. I ate plenty of green things, including money. The dining room was packed. Uncle Mike and Aunt Linda, Cousin Sarah and her husband Brad. Grandma Rose at the head of the table, where Grandpa used to sit before the stroke. My younger brother Derek, smirking into his wine glass like he knew something I didn't. Thanksgiving at the Hartwell house. A Norman Rockwell painting, if Norman Rockwell painted suppressed rage and passive aggression. So, Kevin, Uncle Mike said, setting down his fork with genuine interest. I hadn't seen him in almost 3 years. Last time was at Derek's wedding, where Dad spent the entire reception telling people about Derek's engineering job at Boeing. What are you up to these days? Last I heard you were doing something with computers? Finally. Someone actually asking about my life. I opened my mouth. Oh, he's just bouncing around, Dad interrupted, waving his hand like he was swatting a fly. You know how it is. Can't seem to settle on anything. These young people and their job hopping. The table laughed. Actually laughed. Aunt Linda shook her head with that sympathetic look people give when they hear someone has a chronic illness. It must be so stressful, never having stability. Millennials, Cousin Sarah said, like she'd just solved world hunger. She was 2 years younger than me. They just can't commit to anything. I remember when Kevin worked at that startup, Mom added, her voice dripping with concern. Such long hours for barely any money. I kept telling him to apply at Jim's company. They have excellent benefits. Jim was Dad. Everyone called him Jim except me and Derek. Benefits don't matter when you can't hold down a job long enough to use them, Derek said. His smirk had evolved into a full smile. What is it now, Kev? 5th job in 2 years? 5th consulting contract? With companies that had household names? Making more in a month than Derek made in 6. But sure, let's call it job hopping. Brad, Sarah's husband, jumped in. My brother was like that. Couldn't stick with anything. Finally had to move back in with my parents at 35. They were all looking at me now. Concerned faces. Pitying faces. Dad's face, which wasn't concerned or pitying, but satisfied. Like he'd just proven a point he'd been trying to make my entire life. I set down my fork. Carefully. The way you put down something fragile that you really want to throw against a wall. Excuse me, I said, pushing back from the table. I need to make a phone call. Mom frowned. During dinner? Kevin, that's rude. It's important. More important than family? Dad asked. His voice had that edge, the one that used to make me want to sink into the floor when I was 12. Yes, I said simply. Actually, it is. I walked out of the dining room, through the kitchen where the pie sat cooling, and into Dad's home office. The room where he kept all his awards and certificates. Assistant VP of Regional Operations, 32 years of service. Employee of the Quarter, 1997. I pulled out my phone and called Jessica Chen. She answered on the first ring. Kevin, happy Thanksgiving. Jess, remember that profile piece you've been wanting to run? Jessica was the senior editor at Tech Forward magazine. We'd been talking for weeks about a feature article. She wanted to do a whole spread. I'd been hesitant, too public, too much attention. The 30 under 30 disrupting consulting? Her voice perked up. You changed your mind? I want it published tonight. Tonight? Kevin, it's Thanksgiving. I know what day it is. Can you do it or not? Brief pause. I could hear her thinking. The article's been ready for a week. I just need your final approval on the photos and pull quotes. You have it, run everything. And Jess? Make sure it goes out on all the social channels. LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere. This is very sudden. What happened? I looked at the wall of Dad's achievements. 32 years of playing it safe, of following rules, of being exactly what they wanted him to be. Let's just say I'm done being patient, I said. 20 minutes. That's how long it took Jessica to work her magic. I stayed in Dad's office watching my phone, waiting for the notifications to start rolling in. The article went live at 7:47 p.m. By 7:52, my LinkedIn had exploded with notifications. Congratulations from former professors. Clients praising my work. Industry leaders sharing the article. The algorithm was eating it up. By 7:55, the phone call started. I heard it from Dad's office. The confused murmur from the dining room. Someone's phone ringing. Then another. Then another. I walked back slowly. Gave them time to figure it out. When I entered the dining room, the scene had completely changed. Everyone was looking at their phones. Uncle Mike, Aunt Linda, even Grandma Rose had her reading glasses on, squinting at Sarah's screen. Dad's phone was face down on the table, but it was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Buzz. 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 What's going on? Mom asked, looking around, confused. Why is everyone on their phones? Mom, Derek said, his voice strange. Flat. You need to see this. He held up his phone. Mom took it. Started reading. Her eyes went wide. Jim, she said quietly. Jim, look at this. Dad grabbed the phone, irritated. What's so important that everyone stopped eating? He froze. I watched his face. Watched it cycle through confusion, then recognition, then shock, then something else. Something I'd never seen before. Understanding that he'd screwed up. The article headline was perfect. 30 under 30, how one consultant transformed tech hiring, while the industry wasn't looking. The subheadline was even better. Kevin Hartwell's unconventional approach to freelance consulting has earned him seven-figure contracts and changed how Fortune 500 companies think about talent acquisition. There was a photo of me at a conference in Singapore, another of me presenting to a boardroom full of executives, testimonials from CEOs, a breakdown of my client list that read like a who's who of tech giants. And the numbers. Oh, the numbers were my favorite part. 2.3 million, Uncle Mike read aloud, his voice stunned. You made 2.3 million last year? Is this real? Aunt Linda asked. Kevin, is this actually you? I pulled out my phone, showed them my LinkedIn profile, currently being shared by everyone who mattered in my industry. Yeah, that's me, the one who's just bouncing around. Dad was still staring at the screen. His phone kept ringing. Different news outlets, business publications, LinkedIn connections he hadn't talked to in years, all suddenly very interested in his son. Why didn't you tell us? Mom's voice was small. I tried. Every time we talked, you changed the subject. Every family gathering, you assumed I was failing. You never actually asked what I did. You just decided. But consulting, Dad finally spoke, his voice hoarse. That's not a real job. You don't have benefits, no pension, no. I have a diversified investment portfolio worth more than your pension will ever be. I have health insurance that covers everything, including dental and vision. And I have the freedom to work when I want, how I want, with people who actually value what I do. The table had gone completely silent, except for the constant buzzing of phones. Kevin, Grandma Rose said softly. She was the only one still eating. Why are all these people calling your father? Because he works in tech, I explained. Regional HR operations. Everyone wants to know how he raised such a successful son. They want advice, insights. They think he must have done something right. Dad's face went from pale to red. But the funny thing is, I continued, he didn't do anything. He just assumed I was failing and never bothered to find out otherwise. Derek's smirk had completely vanished. $2 million? 2.3. And that's just from last year. This year's tracking higher. But you dress like... Sarah trailed off, looking at my worn flannel shirt and jeans. Like someone who doesn't need to impress anyone? Yeah. Turns out when you're good at what you do, clothes don't matter. Results do. Cousin Brad had pulled up the article on his own phone. It says here you've consulted for 6 Fortune 500 companies in 1 year. 7 now. Just signed a new contract last week. But I wouldn't know anything about that, would I, Dad? Since I'm just bouncing around. The dining room had become a circus. Everyone talking at once, phones ringing, Aunt Linda trying to read the entire article out loud, Uncle Mike asking questions about my investment strategy, Mom looking completely lost. Derek stood up. This is trash. You probably paid for that article. Bought your way into the... Sit down, Derek. It was Grandma Rose. Her voice wasn't loud, but everyone stopped talking. Kevin, she said, looking at me over her glasses. Your grandfather would have been proud. He always said you had something special, something the others didn't. Grandma Rose's words hung in the air like a benediction. Dad looked like he'd been slapped. Mom, he started, but she held up her hand. I'm not finished. She dabbed her mouth with her napkin, taking her time. Jim, you've been doing this since Kevin was in high school. Remember when he got that scholarship to Stanford? You told everyone he only got in because of affirmative action for middle-class white boys. I never said, you did, at the Christmas party. I was standing right there. Grandma Rose cut another piece of turkey with surgical precision. And when he graduated early with honors, you told people it was because the program was easy. When he turned down that corporate job to start consulting, you called him foolish. At my birthday dinner. The table had become a museum. Everyone frozen, watching this unfold. For 32 years, Jim, you've played it safe, followed every rule, never took a risk. And you know what? That's fine. That worked for you. But you couldn't stand that Kevin chose differently, that he might actually succeed doing things his own way. Dad's phone rang again. He declined it without looking. The worst part, Grandma Rose continued, is that you did this to yourself. You could have had a relationship with a son who's clearly brilliant at what he does. Instead, you have whatever this is. She gestured at the table. At the mess of half-eaten food and glowing phone screens and uncomfortable silence. Kevin, dear, she turned to me. What time is your conference call? I checked my watch. 20 minutes. Then you should go. Don't let us keep you from your work. The important work you're doing. The work that apparently nobody here thought to ask about. I grabbed my coat from the hall closet. Behind me, I could hear the eruption starting. Dad's voice, defensive and angry. Mom trying to play peacemaker. Derek demanding to know why I never told them. Aunt Linda asking if I could look at her son's resume. Uncle Mike caught me at the door. Kevin, wait. I turned. I'm sorry, he said simply. I should have pushed back when Jim interrupted. I wanted to hear what you were doing. Really hear it, not whatever narrative he's been spinning. It's fine. It's not fine. But for what it's worth, congratulations. What you've built is incredible. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. Article is going nuclear. 50K shares in 30 minutes. Your phone is going to melt. Thanks, Uncle Mike. That conference call in Singapore, he said, a knowing smile crossing his face. That's real? Every word. Good. Make them wait 5 minutes. You earned that power. I sat in my car in the driveway for a moment, watching the house through the window. I could see Dad pacing in the living room, phone to his ear. Probably calling his brother to complain. Or his boss to explain why his phone had been ringing off the hook. My own phone hadn't stopped. Texts, calls, LinkedIn messages, former colleagues congratulating me, new clients asking for meetings. One particularly amusing message from a recruiter who'd ghosted me 3 years ago, suddenly very interested in my availability. The conference call with Singapore was actually real. Ethan Wong, CTO of one of the largest fintech companies in Asia. He'd been trying to get on my calendar for 2 months. I dialed in exactly on time. Kevin, Ethan's voice boomed through the speaker. I just saw your article. Congratulations, man. About time someone wrote about what you've been doing. Thanks, Ethan. though the timing was unplanned. Unplanned? It dropped on Thanksgiving. That's either brilliant marketing or the worst timing ever. Little bit of both. So, you wanted to talk about your hiring infrastructure? We talked for 90 minutes. By the time I hung up, I had a 6-month contract worth $380,000 and an invitation to speak at their annual leadership summit in March. Not bad for someone who can't hold down a job. My phone showed 43 missed calls, 12 from Mom, 8 from Dad, 7 from Derek, 4 from various extended family members who'd never bothered to call before, 1 from Dad's brother, Uncle Frank, who I actually liked. I called him back. "Kevin, your father is losing his mind right now." "Good," Uncle Frank laughed. "I can't say I blame you. Jim's been insufferable about you for years, always making comments, always comparing you to Derek. I kept telling him he didn't know what he was talking about, but he wouldn't listen. Why didn't you say something at dinner?" "Because Jim doesn't listen to me either. Hasn't since we were kids." "But Kevin, that article? That was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful." The look on his face when he realized everyone at that table knew he'd been wrong, that everyone in his professional network was seeing him be wrong in real time? Chef's kiss. It wasn't about revenge. Wasn't it? I didn't answer. "Look," Uncle Frank continued, "I'm not judging. Your father's been a jackass. But be careful. Jim's pride is wounded right now, and wounded pride makes people do stupid things." "Like what?" "Like trying to take credit. Like suddenly claiming he always knew you'd be successful. Like rewriting history to make himself look better. Just watch out for it." We hung up. I sat in my car, engine running but going nowhere, and thought about Uncle Frank's warning. My phone rang again. Unknown number. "Kevin Hartwell." "Mr. Hartwell, this is Patricia Morrison from the Wall Street Journal. I'm doing a follow-up piece on the Tech Forward article, and I'd love to get a quote about your relationship with your father. I understand he's also in the tech industry?" And there it was. The thing I'd known was coming, but hadn't quite prepared for. "No comment," I said. "The article mentioned you come from a family that values traditional career paths. Is there tension between you and your father regarding your unconventional approach?" "Ms. Morrison, I'm not going to discuss my family relationships with the press. I've already reached out to your father for comment. He was quite enthusiastic about talking." "Of course he was." "Then I'm sure you'll get everything you need from him. Have a good evening." I hung up and immediately texted Jessica. "Dad's talking to WSJ. Can you give me a heads up if they're running anything?" Her response came instantly. "Already got the alert. They're running a piece tomorrow morning. Tech Dad's pride in son's unconventional success. Want me to get you an advance copy? Please?" The PDF arrived 10 minutes later. I read it sitting in my car, watching my parents' house through the windshield, and felt something cold settle in my stomach. The article was worse than I'd imagined. Dad had positioned himself as my biggest supporter, my champion, the father who'd always believed in me even when others doubted. He talked about how he'd encouraged my entrepreneurial spirit, how he'd taught me to take risks, how he'd always known I'd find my own path. Every single word was a lie. There were quotes. Lots of quotes. "I always told Kevin that the traditional corporate ladder wasn't the only way up," Jim Hartwell explains. "He's got his mother's creativity and my work ethic. I knew that combination would take him far." People would ask me why I let him keep changing jobs, and I'd tell them, he's not changing jobs. He's building a portfolio. He's learning. That's what his generation does, and I respect that. I'm proud of everything Kevin's accomplished. As his father, watching him succeed on his own terms. That's the greatest gift. I read it twice, then a third time. Each reading made my jaw clench harder. He'd done it. He'd taken my success and made it his story. Made himself the hero. Another text from Jessica. "Article goes live at 6 a.m. ST. Expect more interview requests. Also, your dad's LinkedIn is blowing up. He's changed his headline to Father of 30 Under 30 Tech Consultant." I actually laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. My phone rang. Mom. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. "Kevin, honey, where are you?" Still in the driveway. Oh, we thought you'd left. Silence. Your father wants to apologize, she said finally. He feels terrible about what he said. Does he? Kevin, you have to understand. He was shocked. We all were. We had no idea you were doing so well. Because none of you bothered to ask. That's not fair. You never told us. I tried, Mom. Every single time we talked, every family gathering, you and Dad would interrupt, change the subject, or make assumptions. After a while, I stopped trying. Well, you should have tried harder. And there it was. Somehow, this was still my fault. Mom, I have to go. Wait, Derek wants to talk to you about maybe doing some consulting work for Boeing. He thought you could give him some advice on. Tell Derek to send me an email through my website contact form like everyone else. I charge $500 an hour for consultations. Kevin, he's your brother. Then he can pay the family discount, $450 an hour. I hung up. The petty part of me felt good about that. The part that remembered Derek laughing at me during dinner. The part that remembered every smug comment, every dismissive look, every time he'd positioned himself as the successful brother. Another call. Dad. I let it go to voicemail, then another. And another. On the fourth call, I answered. Kevin, son, we need to talk. About the Wall Street Journal article? Silence. Then, you saw that? I have friends at the Journal, Dad. Of course I saw it. Look, they asked for a comment. What was I supposed to say? The truth. That you had no idea what I did because you never asked. That you dismissed my work at dinner tonight in front of the whole family. That you've spent years assuming I was failing instead of actually checking in. I can't say that to the Wall Street Journal. No, but you can lie to them instead. Make yourself look good. Take credit for my success. That's definitely the better option. Kevin, you're being unreasonable. I laughed. Actually laughed. I'm being unreasonable? Dad, you told a reporter you always believed in me. You said you encouraged my entrepreneurial spirit? You want to know what you actually said to me when I turned down that corporate job? You said I was making the biggest mistake of my life. You said I'd regret it. You said I'd come crawling back within a year begging for help. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to make me into someone safe and predictable and traditional. And when I chose differently, you couldn't handle it. You couldn't handle that I might actually succeed doing things my way. That's not true. Then why did you tell everyone tonight I was bouncing between jobs? Why did you laugh when Aunt Linda called me a job hopper? Why did you let Derek imply I was a failure? No answer. The article goes live at 6 a.m., I said. You've got 12 hours to decide if you want to double down on the lies or actually try being honest for once. Kevin, I'm done, Dad. I'm done trying to earn your approval. I'm done letting you define my success. I'm done being your disappointment. Tonight proved I don't need you. I never did. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Adrenaline, anger, relief, all mixed together in a cocktail that left me feeling electric and exhausted at the same time. One more text from Jessica. Kevin, I'm getting requests for a follow-up interview. Something more personal about your background, your family dynamics, the non-traditional path. Interest is huge. Could be a cover story. I stared at the message for a long moment. This was it. The nuclear option. I could tell my story. The real story. Every dismissive comment. Every time I'd been made to feel small. Every family gathering where I'd been the joke. I could burn it all down and let the world see exactly who my father really was. My finger hovered over the reply button. Instead, I typed, "Let me think about it. Need 24 hours." The house lights were still on. Through the window, I could see people moving around. Probably still talking about me, about the article, about how everything had changed in the span of one dinner. Derek appeared at the front door, looking around. Looking for me. I started the car and pulled out of the driveway. My phone buzzed one more time. Grandma Rose. Your grandfather would be proud. Don't let them take this from you. GR. I drove back to Seattle, where my real life was waiting. Where clients valued my work, where colleagues respected my expertise, where I'd built something real, something mine, something nobody could take away. The city's skyline came into view around 11 p.m. My phone had finally started to slow down. Only 20 unread messages instead of 100. I was almost home when another call came through. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Kevin Hartwell. Mr. Hartwell, this is Marcus Thompson from Forbes. I know it's late, but I wanted to catch you before tomorrow. We're planning a feature piece on young consultants disrupting traditional industries, and your name came up repeatedly in our research. The Tech Forward article just confirmed what we'd already been hearing. What were you hearing? That you're the best in the business. That you've revolutionized how major companies approach talent acquisition. That you're the person everyone calls when they have a problem no one else can solve. It was strange, hearing my work described that way. I'd been so focused on doing the work, I hadn't really stopped to think about the impact. We'd like to do an in-depth profile, Marcus continued. Your methodology, your philosophy, your trajectory, real cover story potential. Would you be interested? 2 major publications in one day, both wanting to tell my story. Can I ask you something? I said. Why now? I've been doing this work for 3 years. Why is everyone suddenly interested? Honestly, the human interest angle. The Tech Forward piece mentioned you come from a traditional corporate family. It's a David and Goliath story. The son who rejected his father's path and proved he was right. People love that narrative. That's not what this is about, isn't it? I thought about Dad's face when he saw the article, about the lies he'd told the Wall Street Journal, about 31 years of being made to feel less than. I'll think about it, I said. Fair enough. Can I send over some preliminary questions? No commitment necessary? Sure. We hung up. I pulled into my apartment garage and sat there for a moment, engine off, surrounded by concrete and fluorescent lights. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Sarah, Brad's wife. Your cousin? Sorry about dinner. That was messed up. Anyway, I work in HR at a tech startup and we're having major retention issues. Would you be open to a consultation? Happy to pay your full rate. Then another from Aunt Linda. Kevin, I know tonight was awkward, but I was wondering if you had any advice for Mark. He graduated last year and is struggling to find work in tech. Could you spare a few minutes to talk to him? Then Derek. We should talk. Not about Boeing. Just, we should talk. Everyone wanted something now. Now that they knew I had value. Now that my success was public and quantifiable. I didn't respond to any of them. Not that night. Instead, I poured myself a whiskey, sat on my balcony overlooking the city, and opened my laptop. The Tech Forward article had been shared 127,000 times. My LinkedIn profile had gained 4,000 new followers. My website analytics showed a 2,000% spike in traffic. My inbox was a disaster. Client inquiries, speaking requests, podcast invitations. And buried in there, 3 more messages from Dad. I opened the first one. Kevin, please call me. We need to talk about this properly. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings tonight. That wasn't my intention. Dad, if I hurt your feelings. Not, I'm sorry I was wrong. Not, I'm sorry I dismissed your work. If. The second email was longer. Son, I've been thinking about what you said. You're right that I didn't fully understand what you were doing. But you have to understand my perspective. I come from a generation where job security meant everything, where loyalty to a company was rewarded, where you worked your way up slowly and steadily. I was trying to protect you from making mistakes. Maybe I went about it wrong, but my heart was in the right place. Can we please talk? Dad, better. Still deflecting, but better. The third email had arrived 20 minutes ago. Kevin, the WSJ article is causing some issues at work. People are asking questions. HR wants to talk to me about maintaining professional boundaries and appropriate social media conduct. I need you to issue a statement supporting what I said in the article. Something about how I was always supportive. It would really help me out here. Dad. And there it was. He wasn't sorry. He was in trouble. And he wanted me to lie to get him out of it. I closed the laptop without responding. My phone rang at 6:47 a.m. I'd been awake since 6, reading the Wall Street Journal article that had just gone live. The comment section was brutal. This reads like damage control. If his son is so successful, why have we never heard the dad talk about him before? My father pulled this same stunt, took credit for everything after years of criticism. Classic narcissist behavior. Someone check if Jim Hartwell actually works in tech, or if that's another fabrication. The call was from Uncle Frank. Have you seen the comments on the WSJ article? Reading them now. Your father's LinkedIn is getting destroyed. People are pulling up his old posts. Turns out he's been pretty quiet about you over the years. No congratulations posts. No proud dad moments. Just lots of stuff about Derek. I pulled up Dad's LinkedIn. Uncle Frank was right. Posts about Derek's graduation, Derek's job at Boeing, Derek's promotion, Derek's wedding. Nothing about me except a single post from 4 years ago. Son Kevin graduated from Stanford today. Proud dad moment. No photo. No details. 43 likes. Compare that to Derek's graduation post. Full photo gallery. Long paragraph about Derek's accomplishments. 372 likes. Dozens of congratulatory comments. The internet is doing your work for you, Uncle Frank said. People are noticing the discrepancy. I didn't want this. Didn't you? Kevin, you released that article during Thanksgiving dinner. You knew exactly what would happen. He wasn't wrong. Your father's panicking, Uncle Frank continued. He called me at midnight asking me to post something supportive on LinkedIn. Something about how he's always been Kevin's biggest cheerleader. I told him no. Thank you. Don't thank me. I should have said something years ago. We all should have. We all watched Jim tear you down and we just let it happen. Because it was easier than confronting him. After we hung up, I made coffee and sat down to actually deal with my inbox. Starting with the work stuff, the actual important things. Client inquiry from a Fortune 100 company in Chicago. Potential 6-month engagement. $420,000. Speaking invitation from a tech conference in Austin. $15,000 plus expenses. Podcast request from a show with 2 million listeners. Interview request from Harvard Business Review. 3 separate headhunters offering C-suite positions with starting salaries over $300,000. All things I'd been building toward for 3 years. All validation that had nothing to do with my father or his opinion. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel good to have the proof, to have the receipts, to have the public, undeniable evidence that I wasn't a failure. My phone buzzed. Derek calling. I let it ring out. He called again immediately. On the 3rd call, I answered. What? Jesus, Kevin, I've been trying to reach you all morning. I'm busy. Some of us have work. Low blow. I didn't care. Look, I need to apologize for last night. I was a dick. I should have defended you when Dad was talking, and I didn't. I'm sorry. Okay. Silence. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Derek? You want forgiveness? Fine. You're forgiven. You want a relationship? I don't know if I have that to give right now. Dad's freaking out. The WSJ thing is getting bad for him. Good. Kevin, did you know about the stuff he said in that article? The lies about always supporting me? I mean, I saw the article this morning. And? And, yeah, it's not exactly accurate. It's completely false. Every word. He never supported me. He actively undermined me at every opportunity. And now he's using my success to make himself look good. And you want me to what? Feel bad that people are noticing? He's our father. He's your father. Mine checked out years ago. Derek was quiet for a moment. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is being treated like a disappointment for years while I was building something real. What's not fair is being laughed at during family dinner while I'm literally closing million-dollar deals. What's not fair is Dad lying to the press about our relationship and expecting me to back up his story. He made a mistake. He made a choice, multiple choices, over years. This wasn't one bad moment, Derek. This was a pattern. So what, you're just done? You're cutting him off? I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. Mom's crying. You know that, right? She's been crying all morning. The guilt trip. Classic. Then maybe she should have said something last night when Dad was humiliating me. Maybe she should have said something any of the hundreds of times he's dismissed my work over the past 3 years. But she didn't. She never does. She just enables him and then acts shocked when there are consequences. Kevin, come on. I have a meeting in 10 minutes with a client who values my work, who pays me extremely well to solve their problems. I need to go. This isn't over. Yeah, Derek, it is. I hung up and immediately got a text from Mom. Why won't you answer your father's calls? He's very upset. This is causing problems with his job. You need to make a statement. I blocked her number, then Dad's, then Derek's. The only family number I didn't block was Grandma Rose. My meeting was with Rachel Goldman, CEO of a tech company in San Francisco. We'd been talking for weeks about overhauling their entire hiring infrastructure. The Zoom call was supposed to be our final negotiation before signing contracts. She appeared on screen exactly on time, her office visible behind her. Modern, expensive, successful. Kevin, congratulations on the article, though I have to admit it's making me nervous. Why? Because you're about to become very expensive and very unavailable. Every company in the country is going to want to work with you now. My rates are my rates, and I honor my commitments. If we sign this contract, you have me for the full 6 months regardless of what other offers come in. Good, because we need you. Our hiring process is broken, and it's costing us millions in lost productivity. You came highly recommended, but after reading about your work, I'm convinced you're the only person who can fix this. We spent 90 minutes going through the details. By the end, I had a signed contract for $380,000 and a start date in 2 weeks. This was the 4th major contract I'd signed in as many months. Between consulting fees, speaking engagements, and advisory board positions, I was on track to clear $3 million this year, all while bouncing between jobs. My phone buzzed with an email from Jessica at Tech Forward. Kevin, quick heads up. Your dad's employer just issued a statement distancing themselves from his WSJ comments. Says his views don't reflect the company's values around supporting diverse career paths. Might want to brace yourself. I pulled up the company website. Sure enough, there it was. A carefully worded press release that essentially threw Dad under the bus while maintaining plausible deniability. While we respect the personal opinions of our employees, the views expressed by Jim Hartwell regarding his son's career choices do not reflect Vertex Solutions' commitment to supporting innovative and non-traditional career paths in the tech industry. Translation: We're covering our asses because your dad made us look bad. Another email. This one from someone I didn't recognize at first. Then I saw the signature. Patricia Morrison, Wall Street Journal. Mr. Hartwell, I'm following up on yesterday's piece. Several readers have pointed out inconsistencies between your father's comments and his documented social media history. Would you be willing to provide a statement? I'm specifically interested in your perspective on your father's claim that he was always supportive of your career choices. For context, I've reviewed Jim Hartwell's LinkedIn activity over the past 5 years and found minimal mention of your accomplishments. I've also spoken with several sources who attended Thanksgiving dinner last night and provided a different account of the conversation. I'm giving you the opportunity to tell your side of the story before the follow-up piece runs tomorrow morning. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. Someone at that dinner had talked to the press. I ran through the list in my head. Aunt Linda? No, too protective of Dad. Derek? Maybe. Uncle Mike? Possible. Grandma Rose? I called her. Hello, dear. Grandma, did you talk to the Wall Street Journal? I spoke with a very nice young woman who had questions about Thanksgiving dinner. I told her the truth. Was I not supposed to do that? I couldn't help but smile. What exactly did you tell her? That your father has been dismissive of your career for years. That he interrupted you at dinner before you could answer Mike's question. That the family laughed at you. That I had to step in because nobody else would. Just the facts, Kevin. The facts are going to destroy him. Good. He deserves it. He's been destroying you quietly for years. Turnabout is fair play. You sound like you're enjoying this. I am. Your grandfather and I built something real. We took risks. We bet on ourselves. And we were told we'd fail at every turn. People like your father, people who play it safe and then mock anyone who doesn't, they deserve to be taken down a peg. He's your son. And you're my grandson. I watched him tear you apart at every family gathering. I watched him make you doubt yourself. I watched him take every accomplishment you earned and turn it into a joke. So yes, I'm enjoying watching him face consequences. I just wish I'd done something sooner. We talked for a few more minutes. She asked about my work, actually asked, and actually listened. She wanted to know about the Singapore deal and the Forbes interview request. She told me she'd already ordered 5 copies of Tech Forward magazine. Frame one for your office, she said. Put it right where clients can see it. Let them know they're working with someone who's being recognized as the best. After we hung up, I sat with my coffee and thought about Patricia Morrison's email, about the follow-up article, about the choice I had to make. I could stay quiet. Let the facts speak for themselves. Let Dad dig his own grave without my help. Or I could tell my story, the whole story, every dismissive comment, every time I'd been made to feel worthless, every family gathering where I'd been the punchline. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Kevin Hartwell. Mr. Hartwell, this is David Chen from Forbes. I sent you preliminary questions last night. I know you're still deciding, but I wanted to let you know we've been getting incredible interest in your story. Not just from readers, but from other business leaders who have similar experiences with family members not understanding non-traditional career paths. What kind of interest? We're thinking cover story, full feature, maybe even a follow-up video interview. Your story resonates because it's not just about business success. It's about having the courage to define success on your own terms despite pressure from the people who should support you most. That's pretty heavy. It's true though, isn't it? I didn't answer. Look, David continued, I've done some background research. Your father's WSJ comments are already falling apart under scrutiny. People are noticing the discrepancies. This follow-up piece tomorrow is going to be brutal for him. You have a choice here. You can let other people define the narrative, or you can tell your story in your own words. I'm not trying to destroy my father. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to tell the truth. Let people decide for themselves what that means. After the call, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not for Forbes, not for any publication, just for me. I wrote about being 12 and winning the science fair, and Dad skipping the ceremony because Derek had a baseball game. I wrote about high school graduation, where I gave the valedictorian speech to half-empty seats because my family was late from Derek's college orientation. I wrote about college where I worked 3 jobs to avoid asking my parents for money because I knew they'd hold it over me forever. About graduation, where Dad spent the entire day comparing my degree to Derek's more practical engineering program. I wrote about the corporate job I turned down, the one that would have made me miserable but would have made Dad proud. About his anger when I chose consulting instead. About the years of comments and dismissal and mockery. I wrote about building my business from nothing. About the late nights and rejections and moments where I doubted everything. About the first time a Fortune 500 company hired me and I realized I was actually good at this. About the validation that came from strangers who valued my work in ways my family never had. And I wrote about Thanksgiving dinner. About the specific moment when Dad cut me off. About the laughter. About sitting there feeling small and worthless while discussing a deal worth more than Dad made in 3 years. When I finished, it was 20 pages, single-spaced, raw, honest, probably too honest. I saved the document and titled it, The Truth About Success. Then I sent it to Patricia Morrison at the Wall Street Journal with a simple note. Here's my side. Use what you want. I'm done protecting people who never protected me. The Wall Street Journal article dropped at 6 a.m. Pacific time. I was already awake, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise over Seattle. The headline, The Real Story, When Family Success Means Family Rejection. Patricia Morrison hadn't pulled punches. She'd used my document, but she'd also done her own investigation. LinkedIn analysis, interviews with former classmates, comments from industry colleagues, even a statement from my Stanford advisor who remembered Dad skipping my graduation ceremony. The piece laid it out chronologically. Every missed milestone, every dismissive comment, every time Dad had chosen Derek over me. The contrast between his WSJ lies and the documented reality. And then, at the end, my quote. I don't hate my father. I don't even need him to apologize anymore. I just need him to leave me alone so I can keep building what I've built without his voice in my head telling me I'm not good enough. My phone started buzzing immediately. But this time, not from family. Text from Rachel Goldman, my new client. Just read the WSJ piece. If you need to push back our start date, I completely understand. Take care of yourself first. Email from Ethan Wong in Singapore. Brother, that took courage. Respect. Also, our board wants to double your contract. They're that impressed. LinkedIn message from my Stanford advisor. Kevin, I should have said something when your father didn't show up to graduation. I'm sorry I didn't. What you've built is extraordinary. Keep going. And then, the one that surprised me most. Derek. I read it. All of it. You're right. About everything. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. Or maybe I saw it and didn't want to admit I benefited from it. Either way, I'm sorry. You don't have to respond. I just wanted you to know. I stared at that message for a long time. Derek had never apologized for anything in his life. Never admitted fault. Never acknowledged that maybe, possibly, he'd had advantages I hadn't. I didn't respond. Not yet. But I didn't block him either. Dad's response came through Uncle Frank, who forwarded me an email chain. Dad had sent a mass message to the entire extended family. The WSJ article is full of lies and exaggerations. Kevin is clearly having some kind of breakdown. I've tried to reach out, but he's blocked my calls. If anyone speaks to him, please let him know I'm here when he's ready to talk rationally. Uncle Frank's response, sent to the entire chain. Jim, I was at that dinner. I saw what happened. Kevin's not having a breakdown. He's having a breakthrough. There's a difference. Grandma Rose's response. Kevin told the truth. If you can't handle that, that's your problem, not his. No one else on the email chain responded. The silence was deafening. By noon, the article had been shared 200,000 times. Business publications were running follow-up pieces. The hidden cost of family pressure on young professionals. When parents become obstacles to success. The dad who couldn't handle his son's success. Dad had become a case study, a cautionary tale. The example of what not to do. My phone rang. Forbes. Kevin, it's David Chen. Have you seen the response to the WSJ piece? Hard to miss it. We want to move fast on our feature, full cover story. Your methodology, your success, but also this, he paused, this courage to define success despite family pressure. It's resonating with everyone from college students to C-suite executives. This is bigger than business. This is cultural. When would you need it by? Yesterday. But realistically, we can turn around an interview in 72 hours if you're available. I looked at my calendar. 3 client calls, 2 contract negotiations, a speaking engagement in Portland that I definitely wasn't going to anymore. Let's do it. The Forbes interview happened over Zoom. 2 hours. David asked about my methodology, my client approach, my business philosophy. But he also asked about Thanksgiving dinner, about Dad's WSJ article, about what it felt like to have my success publicly dismissed by the person who should have been proudest. I was honest, painfully honest, about the years of feeling worthless, about building a successful business while constantly doubting myself because Dad's voice was always there, telling me I was making a mistake. About the moment at dinner when I realized I didn't need his approval anymore, that I'd already succeeded despite him, not because of him. Do you think you'll ever reconcile? David asked. I don't know. Right now, I don't even want to. Maybe that makes me petty. Maybe it makes me unforgiving. But I spent 31 years trying to earn something that should have been freely given. I'm done trying. The interview ended. David promised the piece would run in 2 weeks. Cover story. Full spread. That afternoon, my website crashed. Too much traffic. My web developer called in a panic. Kevin, you're getting 50,000 hits an hour. We need to upgrade everything. Do it. It's going to cost. I don't care. Do it. By evening, I'd received 47 new client inquiries, 17 speaking requests, 3 book deal offers. and one particularly interesting email from a Silicon Valley VC who wanted to fund a consulting firm built around my methodology. Kevin, I've been following your work for months. The publicity this week just confirmed what I already knew. You've identified a real gap in how companies approach talent. I want to invest $5 million in building this into something bigger. No strings. You maintain creative control. Let's talk. $5 million. To build something I'd already been building anyway, just bigger and faster. Uncle Mike called that night. Your father's in trouble at work. Real trouble. HR is investigating whether his public comments constitute a conflict of interest. Something about using his position to promote a family member's business, even though you've never worked together. That's ridiculous. It is. But companies panic about optics. And right now, Jim's optics are terrible. Is he going to lose his job? I don't know. Maybe. Probably not fired, but demoted? Definitely possible. I sat with that information, tried to figure out how I felt about it. Are you asking me to do something? I finally said. No, I'm just telling you. What you do with the information is up to you. After we hung up, I pulled up Dad's LinkedIn. His profile was getting destroyed. Comments on every post. People pulling up old photos where I was conspicuously absent. Industry colleagues distancing themselves. One comment stood out. I worked with Jim for 10 years. He talked about his sons constantly. But it was always Derek this, Derek that. I didn't even know he had another son until this week. That tells you everything you need to know. Mom sent an email that bypassed my block somehow. Kevin, please. Your father made mistakes, but he's paying for them now. He could lose his job. Is that what you want? For him to lose everything because of one bad moment? I wrote back. The only response I'd sent to either of them since Thanksgiving. It wasn't one bad moment, Mom. It was 31 years of moments. I didn't make him lie to the WSJ. I didn't make him dismiss my career at every opportunity. I didn't make him treat me like a disappointment while treating Derek like a golden child. He did that. These are his consequences, not mine. I'm not trying to destroy him. I'm just finally protecting myself. There's a difference. I didn't hear back. The Forbes piece ran 13 days later. Cover story, just like promised. The photo was me in my office, surrounded by the work I'd built. Professional. Confident. Successful. The headline, Success on Your Own Terms. How Kevin Hartwell built a tech consulting empire while his family wasn't looking. The article was everything. My methodology, my client list, my revenue numbers. But also the personal story. The family dynamics. The courage it took to choose a path everyone around me said was wrong, and then prove them wrong. The response was overwhelming. LinkedIn exploded. Twitter trending. Instagram accounts dedicated to choosing yourself over family expectations. I became a symbol for something bigger than myself. For everyone who'd been dismissed by their family. For everyone building something real, while people who should support them tore them down instead. Derek sent another message. Saw the Forbes piece. You look happy, really happy. I don't think I've ever seen you look like that. I'm glad you found it, even if we weren't part of the journey. This time, I responded, thanks. That means something. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. But acknowledgement. Maybe that was enough for now. Grandma Rose framed both magazine covers and hung them in her living room. Called me over for dinner to celebrate. Your grandfather would have loved this, she said, pouring wine. He always said the people who make it look easy never had easy paths. You proved that. I didn't set out to prove anything. I know, that's why it matters. You weren't trying to make a point. You were trying to build something real. The point made itself. Dad never apologized. Not directly. But 3 months after Thanksgiving, I got a letter. Handwritten. Mailed to my office. Kevin, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve that. But I need you to know I see it now. What I did. What I've been doing for years. Uncle Frank made me sit down and read through old family photos. Do you know you're barely in any of them? I never noticed. I was always focused on Derek, always pushing him forward, And I never saw that I was pushing you away. I told myself I was being practical, protecting you from disappointment. But really, I was just scared. Scared that your success might look different than mine. And if it worked, that meant I'd wasted my life playing it safe. Seeing you succeed despite me, maybe even because you had to fight against me, that's hard to swallow. You didn't need me. You never needed me. And I think that's what I couldn't handle. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know I finally understand. I'm proud of you. I should have said it years ago. Dad, I read it 3 times. Cried a little. Put it in my desk drawer. Didn't respond. Maybe someday. But not today. Today, I had client calls, contract negotiations, a speaking engagement in London, a business to run, a life I'd built without his approval. And that was enough.